Learn the most empowering hiring techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with your host, Rick.
So posting ads and screening applicants has become a major headache. Now using ChatGPT and other AI tools to game the process, things are spiraling out of control. To make matters worse, there's been a surge of fake candidates, especially in engineering, pretending to be local. And at the heart of the issue is the resume itself, because we still do not know what skills are true anymore. In fact, resumes can't answer the two most important questions, which are, is this person positioned correctly for my unique company, and are they a high performer? So at the end of the day, the most useful parts of a resume are just the contact information and the white space, neither of which AI can provide much value in fixing. I'm Rick Gerard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and executives win the strongest people. We do so by sharing insights from top-performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders like our guest today, Mr. Forest Zhang. Forest is the founder and CEO of Vantis, a custom software development agency whose unique differentiator is that all their engineers work under one roof in Irvine, California. Now, this produces huge gains in collaboration and communication, allowing them to ship higher quality products faster than anyone else. Forest has also founded and scaled multiple businesses, including several SaaS platforms with ARR of over $2 million in revenue, including a tech startup that generates more than $6 million in annual recurring revenue, which is what makes Forest the perfect expert for today's topic. Forest, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show today.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be here.
It's good to have you. All right. So I always like to start out with like a little bit of an experience share, because you and I have encountered quite a few same things. You hire a lot of engineers as you're building your business, and you know, we've got a couple of our customers that we've been helping out. And one of the things that I've noticed lately is that there's LinkedIn and some of the other sites have made it very, very easy for you to take a job description and then take the resume and then say, make my resume match this job description, and boom, they just send it out. Next thing you know, in 5 minutes, you got a resume that's tailored for your company. And for most AI tools that are out there, it's going to screen that person in, which might seem like it's a good competitive advantage for somebody. However, it's not necessarily the case, because somebody who doesn't have a great resume or hasn't effectively cheated has essentially been passed over because in somebody else has been chosen. Share with me kind of like what you've seen in relation to that same storyline.
Yeah, like you said, I think people are tailoring their resumes using AI, and they're even using AI agents to mass apply to hundreds, thousands of jobs per week. What we're seeing is a lot of applications in a very short window, most of which didn't read the requirements or are qualified for the posting. For example, we posted a job for a software engineer, and we got close to 800 applications in a week. And
by the way, that's not a good thing. Nobody needs 800 applications when you have one or two roles, right? Like,
it was a bad thing. It was impossible to sift through. And it was a huge waste of time, because most of them didn't even read the requirements. For example, all of the engineers at my company, a requirement is that they work in person. And these applicants are coming from all states, all 50 US states, which obviously is an issue.
And all over the globe. I saw a rash of people that actually claimed to be in a state or someplace close to us. And when I got on an interview with them, it was a really bad internet connection. The person who showed up was clearly not named the person that was being they were trying to represent themselves as being, and it was a big waste of my time.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be something.
So I get you. I
better way.
understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So you're seeing people who you're getting too many applications. Um, so again, it eats up a lot of your time. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, like, how much time do you figure that it ate of yours?
Yeah, I'm not the one who looks at the applicants. That's one of my co-founders. I would say when we were in the thick of the hiring, he would spend about 4 hours a week looking through resumes.
Looking at resumes to decide whether or not you want to talk to somebody.
Yeah, and most of it isn't even like in-depth analysis of the resume or the person. It's more of a is this person fit the criteria? No, it's like most likely the case that they don't fit. So it's more about heading next within LinkedIn to go through the volume that
Yeah.
we were seeing. So it wasn't even like a meaningful work. It was just madness given the volume of applicants.
Yeah, and that's the thing. LinkedIn's made it very easy to basically hit auto apply, right? And then essentially all you have to do, you auto apply, and really nobody reads ads anymore, and that's not a good thing. I have a theory that the effort that somebody puts into their job search is the same amount of effort they're going to put into their job, right? Because they're in a point where they need something. They need a job if they're applying for jobs, or they need to get out of somewhere. And if they're going to be lazy in their job search, they're also going to be lazy when it comes to working for you.
I think that's a great point. And one of our core values is diligence. So if someone takes the approach of, oh, I'm going to apply to 1,000 jobs just using the spam apply button, then probably it's not going to fit for us.
Yeah. And this is a good lesson for people who are looking for jobs. If you're looking for a job right now, take the time to do your diligence, because I can't even imagine how frustrating it must be to send out, 100 applications and only get 2 or 3 interviews out of that. Don't do that. Identify 5 companies, do diligence, and reach out to people properly. You'll get much farther than just auto applying to jobs. And then, the other thing that turns employers off tremendously is when they call you and they do have a conversation with you, and you don't even know anything about the opportunity or the company, right? Because you didn't go back and read the job description.
But Rick, I also understand the need to have volume during the application process, because especially nowadays with all these AI applications, if you only send 5, applications, you're not going to get actually seen amongst all the hundreds of other applicants, right?
Well, I recommend getting yourself out of the application process. Or if you're going to apply, make sure that make sure that you take the time to write a message that would get somebody to really lean in, right? Like, again, the amount of effort that you put into it is what you're probably going to get out of it. So, are you listening to the Higher Power Radio Show? For our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. All right, I'm digging in deeper with our guest, Forest Zhang. He's the founder and CEO of Vantis. And we just talked a little bit about how, getting 800 applicants is a bit of a nightmare. And now you've done something pretty unique for us. You and your team have figured out how to leverage AI to actually get you the right people through the funnel. So first off, there's a lot of AI tools out there for resume screening. I do think some of them are kind of hackable now, especially with ChatGPT. But I want you to walk me through your process by which, how you guys kind of made this more manageable so that you're not spending 4 hours a week, just sifting through resumes. So walk me through it. Like, what did you do first? How'd you guys solve this problem?
Yeah, so we realized that we need to have some kind of filtering mechanism in place, and the first step was mapping out all the non-negotiables for us as far as an applicant is concerned. Stuff like, where is the location of the applicant? How is their communication skill? What is their compensation ask? And based off that, we created a webpage, vanisoft.com/careers, which we guide them to through our copy in our job ad. So, for example, our job ad for LinkedIn, it says, if you want to apply for this job, don't reply to this message or don't click apply. Rather, go to this website, vanisoft.com/careers. And there we have a simple form. We have a job description and a form that asks for their name, their email, their phone number, their compensation ask, as well as a upload for the resume. And here we're using a combination of AI tools and just, simple conditional filtering. If the compensation ask is beyond our threshold, then they're automatically rejected. Also, we are parsing the resume using AI to ensure that they would be an excellent communicator based off the language in the resume and their education.
All right, so let's dig into this a little bit more. So you started out with mapping out the non-negotiables for them, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, because so you're essentially creating a list of what the business needs, right? So like, walk me through how you guys created this. How did you map out your non-negotiables?
Well, this is all stuff that we knew already because we've been hiring for years. And it
Sure.
was simply a matter of just writing down all the stuff that we already thought was a non-negotiable in our head and putting it on paper.
Okay, so what were those things for you?
Yeah, one of them was the compliment. So we had a number in our minds that we shouldn't exceed. That was one of the requirements. Another one was the fact that all of our developers work in person, so they would have to be in the area. They couldn't be in India or Vietnam. They would have to actually be around. Another one was the communication level had to be high because all of our developers are client facing. We need strong communicators. And finally, experience level. We actually want someone who's not too senior because of the compensation thing. So we need someone who's typically between 2 and 5 years into their career.
Okay. Got it. So kind of like mid-level, junior to mid-level. So you said something about starting with a small list and then refining the list. So what refinements did you make in that list?
Yeah, initially it was there were fewer criteria. I think initially it was just the comp thing and like the location thing, and then we got more and more sophisticated with the filtering. And I think that was important for us to start small and expand the list later because we weren't missing, applicants while we were tweaking the filters. We were still getting all of the resumes, all of the applicants, so we weren't missing anyone. And I think it was important that we follow that through later with tighter criteria.
That's a really good point. You're not gonna people who are actively looking for jobs and not reading them are gonna apply anyway. So no matter what you do, you're not going to miss out on people. I think that there's this fear that, well, gosh, if I'm too targeted in my messaging, that somebody's not going to apply. Everybody's applying for everything. I think what's important is that you do know who your ideal candidate is, right? And if you know who that ideal candidate is, then you should write that messaging for them, right? And I know we didn't kind of really talk about the job description, but I always say that a job description is a marketing doc, right? It should inspire people to want to work for your company. And I don't know if you guys did anything interesting there, or what did you guys kind of do with your job descriptions to make sure that you're getting the right people who are leaning in?
Yeah, we just used the one that you gave us. So we plugged our, job description to your, I think yours were AI tool or something, and then it gave us the full description, and we literally just copy pasted that into LinkedIn and modified the line that said, email us, replace that with visit this website, essentially.
Got it. Got it. Thanks for the plug. I'll take that all day long.
Yeah,
Well,
we've been using your
what's important
methodology, we've been using your methodology to hire, and it's really worked out for us. So yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, that's why I wanted to have you on. One, I mean, you guys do a great job, but number two, you know, you've kind of taken this. So essentially, like this landing page and this whole kind of application process for you is really like creating a call to action that takes people off the platform and it gets them to engage with you guys in a different way, right? Because what typically happens, what a lot of companies do, is they get a bunch of resumes, they see resumes they like, they call them, they do a basic screen, and it's really not anything that, how much you're looking to make, how many years of experience you have with this, that, and the other thing. And, what it does do is it causes those high performers or those people that are not really actively looking, but they're just kind of open to something new to bow out. And so when you create a call to action that kind of takes people out of their comfort zone and makes them feel like, hey, there's a challenge here, you're getting the high performers more to lean in, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Quite
I think
frankly,
having that call to action is like an interesting challenge to the applicant. It's not just pressing
yeah,
a button anymore.
yeah, yeah. I've only seen it like where we've gotten pushback once, and it was an interesting play in that like it was probably somebody that wasn't even remotely close to the role anyway, right? Where somebody actually took one of our job postings and said, oh gosh, I can't believe they make candidates jump through hoops like this. But they didn't even read the role. You know what I mean? They just wanted to complain, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
Also, who would want to hire someone who like complains about stuff like that? Anyways.
exactly. So they made it very easy for us to say, well, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. The filter
Okay.
is working.
So you mapped out the process. Talk to me about how if I'm one of your colleagues and I'm going, okay, well, how can I best leverage AI to do this? What were you using, or how might I go about leveraging AI in your framework?
Yeah, so we're a software engineering firm. So for us, it was really easy to just build this ourselves. I'm like 100% confident there's tons of tools out there already that do what we did.
Yeah.
But all we did was create a landing page on our website. We use Next.js, so we just created a Next.js web page. And then on the back end, we have a server that feeds the PDF of the resume into ChatGPT via the OpenAI API, and then asks a couple of questions with our non-negotiables, and then we get back a yes or a no. Regardless of the yes or a no, we write all the data to a SQL database, but only the yeses make its way to Slack. So we have a Slack integration and a Slack channel that posts all of the ones who pass the filter.
So the filter is basically just, hey, this resume makes it past the screening point. Are you checking to see if AI wrote the resume?
We are not checking that, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, because I know you can actually run it. There are some tools that you can run where, hey, how much of this was written by AI?
I don't think we care too much. I think as long as they have the skills, then we're okay with that. We do a like a 3-step interview process. We have discovery, working session, and final interview. And during the working session, we weed out anyone who does lie about their expertise and experience.
Yeah, but that's also like you're scheduling time to get people through a working session that essentially like you know, should not have made it through to a working session, right? Is there a lot of people that you're bringing through that you haven't hired?
Of course. But I mean, let me ask you this. Why does it matter whether they wrote the resume with AI? As long as the skills align with what the AI put in the resume.
You know what? It may or may not. When it does matter is when it's completely falsified, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's when it
people can do
matters.
that regardless of whether they use AI or not, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, you could basically write a really bad framework of a resume and then put it into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, rewrite this resume to align with it." It could be all false. And actually, I've come across a lot of those resumes that are like that. They're pretty decent resumes. They're not great, but they're decent. And then when you get into a conversation, I mean, I've had people on LinkedIn show up for the interview, and they were not the same person in the picture as the person on LinkedIn, right? So, um, yeah, I don't necessarily care if they do, but you still should be able to fine tune it and humanize it a little bit more to where it's not 100% an AI generated resume.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. If it is AI generated, it's more likely to be falsified.
Yeah.
And yeah, I suppose there's probably some other endpoint, some other API we can call to check that. But yeah, it's a good suggestion.
But you know what though? My biggest thing is I just don't like resumes. I honestly think that most resumes, the most valuable content on a resume is the contact information, and the white space is like what's not being said on the resume. And so, I will happily, if people answer my call to action properly and they put some thought into it, I will interview and discovery call anybody who responds to that, even if their skills are off, because they took the time to do that. Now, of course, we'll kind of blow through them pretty quickly if they're way off, but that's a lot less time consuming than getting into a full skills-based interview with them, with the team, right? Because I don't want to take my people out of production to interview somebody that's not going to be hired, or like there's not a pretty good chance that that person will be hired.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
yeah. So I mean, for me, I just don't look at resumes. I just try. I look at it for a second, and the only thing that I do tend to look at is how much time somebody spent at a company, and I compare that to their LinkedIn profile to see if there's accuracy there.
Yeah, I think we're kind of the same way. We only use the resume as like a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
One other interesting thing we look at is their GitHub account. We're looking for activity. We're just looking for, green squares over the course of the year or years. What's also funny there is people can falsify their GitHub activity too. They can write
Yeah, I would
scripts that
imagine so.
automatically push, randomly throughout the day. So it looks like they're coding a lot. They're actually not. And we've seen a couple of those as well.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. Yeah, it's amazing to me how many people should like all you have to do is actually how much work goes into not doing work. So, well, very cool. Forrest, we're getting pretty close on time. What are 2 or 3 key takeaways you want to give the audience so they can plug into their business today?
I would say map out your non-negotiables. So they're definitely in your head. I would say write them down and process. Like make it a process, part of your interview process. And the other thing is explore AI tools to help you filter out applicants who don't match your non-negotiables.
Yeah, very cool. Forrest, thanks so much for your time investment today. And I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, what would be the best way in which members of the audience could find you and find your company?
Thanks, Rick. The best way is to go to our website, vantasoft.com, vantasoft.com. It's got information about us as well as a contact form if you want to reach out to me directly.
Very cool. All right. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in this week's episode of Higher Power Radio. Quick thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Balland, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share after all this shows for you. We want to continue to bring you valuable content week after week. You can check us out further at Hire, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, Radio, R-A-D-I-O.com, or you can drop me an email at rick@intertrue.ai. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to hiring success, Rick Gerard.